Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. How we doing? My name is Rich Murphy, as said. We're going to talk a little bit about how many alerts a security analyst gets in a day and what we can do to make that number smaller, because it is quite an avalanche, as you'll see. So just talking a little bit about a day in the life of security operations. Typically, you have a SIM, lots of data going in, handfuls of detections that you need to tune in order to get some accuracy out of them, right? You're going to want to see less false positives and obviously detect only the most relevant information. But a lot of times you're coming in unclear. You don't actually know the data that's coming into your environment, so you have no context around it. It takes you a couple of minutes to get your bearings when you see an alert come in. So a lot of this is, people tune their way out of actually detecting things because they don't want to see that much noise, right? Which becomes a bit of a problem. And even after all that tuning, you still end up getting thousands of alerts. So just if you imagine a security operations center with 5 or 6 people, and it takes, 5-10 minutes to do one of these triages to see if it's relevant or not. And then if it is relevant, you'd maybe have to spend more time investigating, analyzing, remediating. So that time adds up, and you can't go through thousands of alerts. So a lot of it gets dropped on the floor. As you can see here, over half of these end up being false positives a lot of the time. So what happens is you're just crushing yourself with unnecessary information. And so it's just not a great way to do things. We also then manually triage most of these, and like I said, about 10 to 15 minutes per alert, which gives you like 4 to 6 an hour. Obviously, you're never going to get through thousands of them unless you really know what you're looking at. And that's why we have so much burnout in the industry, right? Especially in the SOC teams. People don't want to handle this crushing weight all day, day in, day out. So we obviously want to try and make these things better. There we go. And that's the reality of the alert overload, right? We're seeing thousands of alerts a day, 67% routinely ignored, which is a crazy number. I mean, that's just, some of that might be false positives if you're lucky, but other chances are it's relevant information that you're letting slip away. And that's why a lot of times when there's a breach in an industry, you see that breach isn't noticed for 200 days because, you might have been alerted on it, but you're not actually going to see it because it's just too much burnout, too much stress, too many alerts. So what's causing a lot of this avalanche? Why are we getting thousands of alerts? I mentioned we can tune them as best we can for an environment, but obviously we do have that rule sensitivity issue where we want to tune them. The lack of context is big, in my opinion, because if you don't know what you're looking at, you're going to spend so much time trying to figure out, is this an important alert? Is this not an important alert? Is the machine or the user it's affecting, is that somebody in a test environment doing a lab thing, or is this like an actual workstation or laptop where like email is compromised, right? Sometimes you just don't know until you dig into it. So because of all that noise, it's very difficult. And then, the triage process, what to do after we detect an alert, is sometimes lacking. So that's, just unfortunately a lot of the problems that we have to face. And what can we do to reduce it, right? Here is what we're going to go through today. It's basically a little bit data routing, so managing the data as it comes into the pipe so that you can understand what's necessary, what's not necessary to index, to parse, to analyze. Getting that context into your system so that you can properly understand what the alert is telling you and what we should do about it. Prioritizing those alerts, so for all the ones that are relevant, which ones should we tackle first versus which ones we should maybe wait till later. Triaging it from different angles. This is another thing where you can not necessarily have to look at the list of alerts as they come in, most recent timestamp or oldest timestamp. Maybe we look at it from a user perspective. Maybe we look at it from a machine perspective, something like that. So we can consolidate groups of alerts in ways that make sense. So kind of like if there's smoke, there's fire. You'll probably see a handful of things attacking one user or one machine. And so it's not like you have to troubleshoot those individually. You can look at them as a whole. And then last, it's 2025, so I have to mention we should probably leverage AI to also assist with some of this analysis and remediation. So we'll start with filtering at the source. This has become kind of a big topic, but basically most of the time, historically, SIEMs would try to capture all of your data, index all of your data, and store all of your data, right? Full log management, full capability. More recently, we've started routing information depending on how important it is. We have the concept of like the hot and the warm tier, where the warm tier might be logs that are not necessarily as important, but you may need them, so we keep them on slower disks and pull them when we need to. We also have these concepts of data lakes, where we have standby data in the structured lake. And so a use case for this would be the DNS traffic, right? So you might not want to know every single local DNS request and response that is going in your environment, so maybe we'll route that to the standby. And then later on, we see some alert, some investigation where it's like, oh, you know what, this was affecting internal assets, let's take a look at those DNS logs. And then you can pull them into the system and continue your investigation. So I work for Graylog. Graylog does this in-house. You might need third-party tools to do some of this routing, but the idea is still the same, where you're going to take that data and move it where appropriate. If you need it, you can pull it back into the system, but it's just sitting there, not being indexed, just kind of doing its thing, and while you look at kind of the more relevant day-to-day alerts. Getting the context. This is another important thing, and there's a lot of ways to do this. You can start basic with the asset and user information in your environment. So, just if you're already using tools that have this inventory, like MS365 or AWS or what have you, and so we want to get all of that information and have it right alongside the log messages. So when you see an IP address, it also says, this is this machine, it has this services on it, it's running a web server, and it's maybe got these vulnerabilities that we haven't patched yet, right? So you have a lot of information about the machine without having to know, oh, that IP address is this, right? It's just there with you. And so that's one way we can enrich with that asset data. The other way that we can enrich is with threat intelligence. And I realize that's a broad topic, but this can be anything from detection rule sets that are found across the internet that you can import, things like open detection standards like Sigma, or some of the others where you can grab something that you've seen other people detect and import it in. We also can talk about watch lists here, certain known hostile attackers. You can immediately eliminate some of the noise by just, I know that these alerts are coming from IP addresses that are known to be hostile, so we can treat them accordingly, or just block them out right before they come into the network. That'll help to eliminate a lot of those alerting that we see. The known attack campaigns or live attack campaigns is useful as well, because what's relevant and happening in the wild, you'll obviously want to be on the lookout for. So you can have these kind of temporary targeted campaigns to detect certain attacks. You can actually do historical analysis, looking for it when it's happened in the past. So just being better informed about the data you're seeing is a huge help in reducing a lot of the noise and a lot of the stress, because I know now this workstation is in a lab that is actually a honeypot, so we don't need to worry about it, or this machine is the database with all our financial information. Maybe we should look at that first, So that's also another great way to just prioritize as you're triaging these things. And once you have all that information in, it becomes a lot easier to prioritize and triage, because what's most important and what can just fall to the wayside for the time being, right? I would never say ignore a security alert, but you don't necessarily have to tackle it as the most important thing in the day. Another way that we can prioritize, most SIEM tools have a risk scoring mechanism. This will allow you to, again, take all of those factors we're talking about, who that person is in your company, what machines are they accessing, what vulnerabilities do those machines have, any other additional information you have from your threat intelligence, from your the campaigns that are out there. All of those factors contribute to some sort of scale or score where you can the more severe alerts, the higher the score, and then you tackle those first, right? So that is immensely helpful in taking all of the information I'm talking about, the data routing, the threat intelligence, the context from the assets, and just wrapping that up into an easy to read number. So essentially, once you have the SIEMs configured in a way that does this, you don't necessarily have to know all the context, you have the score, and then you can dive in from there and extrapolate. So. That is a little bit of that. And then how we look at these assets, the angles in which we retrieve them. I mentioned this before, but we have the asset and the user, which are great ways to group these alerts. So if we have a machine that's got 15 alerts attached to it, they're probably common or related in some way, so they're all kind of on one screen, sorted out for you by user. We can sort them by the risk score as well to see what the most important is. Same thing with the users, and any other information that you have about that asset, about that user, about that machine. If we can group that all together, the vulnerabilities that they're exposed to, the alerts that we've seen, it gives us a much better picture of why that machine or user is so risky and what we can do to remediate it, right? If we know they're wide open, that machine is wide open, and we keep getting attacked from the same ports or exploits or what have you, then we know what we have to do to shore that up. The other thing is, I talk about grouping the machines and the users, but we should really also group some of these alerts together as well. One alert may be important, but an alert for like recon, followed by some sort of exploit, followed by data leaving your site, right? These are like a pattern. This is behaviors that indicate like a severe attack. And so finding those chains and those detection chains that we have, you're able to then see, okay, this is a coordinated attack. We actually could probably get information about the attack from the web because these are kind of well known and published in MITRE and what have you. But the idea being, okay, I now know we're being attacked by this particular campaign, so let's find out the information about that campaign, figure out how to remediate it, figure out how to resolve it. I'm going very fast, so I'm just going to slow down, but the last thing I did want to mention was leveraging AI for analysis. So obviously, we get a lot of information. We have to be a little careful about what we do with the AI tools, but it's a very useful way to say, I'm seeing all of this information. Here are the logs I've seen. Here's the alert that triggered. Here's the information about the machine. What can you tell me about what this is, what I can do, right? So supplementing your context and all this other information with details about what the AI is telling you, basically what it knows from gathering the information across the web. That's going to be a very helpful tool as well. I'm not saying let it take over necessarily, but it's just another piece of evidence you can use as you're compiling all the information in an investigation, in a bucket, however you do your triage and you do your workflow. So I treat that as like another useful set of remediation steps, set of summary about the alert, that sort of thing. And we found them very useful. When you restrict the set of data you're giving it, and when you are when your prompts are thoughtful in terms of what you're looking for, right? So I'm looking for a set of remediation steps around this type of attack. It looks like this is happening. What can you tell me additionally, about the attack in question or about the machine in question? So that's letting the AI do the work for you, and that's basically what I wanted to go through were those kind of 5 topics, right? Routing the data so that you can eliminate a lot of the noise right at the ingestion point. You don't need to ingest everything and read everything and index everything, right? Let's take some of the noisier logs that we don't need every day. Let's put them in our kind of standby, our warm tier, and that will eliminate some of the noise we get from the alert detections. Adding the context so that you have your asset information, maybe including threat intelligence on top of that, so you have that alert knowledge and kind of that internet database of the most known attacks and the stuff that's out in the wild. Prioritizing with risk scores and other kind of formulas to understand what's the most important, and then leveraging AI finally. So, but yeah, you can't eliminate the noise, but we can do our best to try and reduce it using a lot of those techniques. You start with reducing that data set that you're actually looking into, only focus on the most important, and then enrich that with the context. Prioritizing it, and just all of this is going to lead to faster triage, which when you have thousands of alerts is going to be crucial when you're trying to solve these problems. So, And that's my talk. I left time for questions, but they've told me if we have any questions, please come visit us at the booth. We are in the 400 row. So stop by if you want to learn more about Graylog, if you want to learn more about just SOC workflow. We have a few folks here who are very well versed in SOC and security analysis. So happy to help you out, answer any questions you might have, and demo some of these techniques we've been talking about. So that is it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be here for a few minutes, I guess.